some doctors around the country who are against it. And this is really, it, the doctors really get into the heart of the problem. The first problem that some of the doctors see is government-imposed treatment guidelines. Dr. Jeffrey Bork, cardiologist named to Castles Connolly's America's Top Doctors, said, "What's the impact of guidelines on the doctor-patient relationship? Guidelines step in between the doctor and the patient. If it's necessary to respond to guidelines rather than what you see, feel, and hear when you're evaluating a person, then perhaps you're going to do something that isn't really the right thing. There really isn't an average patient. Every person that you see with a medical problem has some unusual or unique characteristic, and this often has to be considered in dealing with the problem." See, this is the heart of the death panels thing that Sarah Palin was talking about that the AP sort of missed. See, it's not the counseling necessarily that we're against, even though that is a problem. But we're against the government imposing treatment guidelines. And he said themselves, supporters of the Obama administration said themselves, what's the point in keeping someone alive for a few more months? Well, the point is that that's the point of healthcare, to keep you alive as long as possible. That's the point. But when we're afraid that when a central government agency, bureaucracy, whatever you want to call it, might have the ability to say what the doctor guidelines of what the doctor can do to treat. And sometimes those guidelines are not going to be based, and especially in a government program, the guidelines are not going to be based on what's best for the patient, but it's going to be based on what's best for what they deem the collective, and it's going to impose guidelines that save them money. See, they're not going to want to spend money to keep someone alive for a few more months. They don't believe in that. That's the fear, and that's where death panels come in. They're afraid that they're going to have these panels that determine whether you can live or die. So they add things like counselors, before-death counselors, to get you through it. Well, why would you need that? You shouldn't need... It's just... There's things in here that are scary this Halloween. There's things in here, they're sneaking things in here, and some doctors are catching on it, and it's pretty scary stuff. The fact that the government can step between you and the doctor, it's supposed to be you and the doctor's decision, and mostly up to you. The doctor believes to do what's best for your health, and you decide if you want to do it. Why would we throw in a third party centralized in Washington to determine your health? You know that them in Washington, once this healthcare, in order for them to provide healthcare for anybody, they have to ration care. They're going to have to find ways to cut corners and raise money. That's one way. Some of the elderly patients that might die in 2 years anyways, they're going to cut a lot of their health because they don't see the point. It happens in socialized countries already. They want to... A lot of socialists believe that you should treat the young people because they're contributing to society. And the old people, well, they're not contributing to society, so they shouldn't be first on the list. Well, what about, treating them with respect since they were our ancestors and brought us much of what we have? What about treasuring our ancestors, our elderly, because they gave us a lot what we have? They deserve our respect. They deserve to have good health care now with all they've worked for. Not for it to be taken away. Dr. David Fields, obstetrician and gynecologist, Lenox Hill Hospital, New York, said, "They tend to forbid better than average medical care. Guidelines are always average medical care. They tend to cramp the physician who can do better than average." Now, I'm reading this from the Wall Street Journal because it has accredited doctors. So don't take my word for it. Yeah, I'm just a student, and I'm not even a med student. But I'm going to say what the accredited doctors are talking about this. Dr. Bower said, "One of the more common problems that people have as they get older is a disease called aortic stenosis. We can relieve the aortic stenosis with an operation with really very acceptable safety, low mortality rates. If that 85-year-old cannot walk down the street because he or she is too breathless to do so, or feels lightheaded or could faint and break a hip, then there is really a very good justification for offering the therapy." Okay. Dr. Richard Amerling, nephrologists. I don't know what that is. Mom, you need to send me information. What is nephrologist? Nephrologist. You got to send me an instant message or something, tell me what that is. Beth Israel Medical Center. My mom's a nurse, by the way, so she would probably know. New York. Said, the example that you give of value surgery in an 85-year-old is just not going to happen under White House healthcare advisor Ezekiel Emanuel. He's going to just say that that's a non-starter. That person has outlived their useful years no matter how long they could live beyond that. See, this is where it's going to go. And we know it because money is going to run it. And when you have a centralized health system, they're not going to think about each individual patient. They're going to think about money. And this is accredited doctor saying this. It's not me. It's not just me. Dr. Bower said, what we're hearing from the president's medical advisors is that what we have is good enough and we really shouldn't be wanting or expecting any more. That's absurd. We're under the American dream, having a better world for our children than us. It's just, if that's true, these medical advisors of Obama should be ashamed of themselves. I'm sorry. Dr. Seymour Cohen, oncologist named to America's top doctors, said, when we went to medical school, people used to die at 66, 67, and 68. Medicare paid for 2 or 3 years. Social Security paid for 2 or 3 years. We're the bad guys. We're responsible for keeping people alive. I love how he put that. We're the bad guys. We're responsible for keeping people alive to 85. So now we're going to try and change healthcare because people are living too long? It just doesn't make very good sense to me. See? Accredited doctors. It's not just me. And there's other problems. This article has doctors talking about problems with shifting resources from specialty to primary care, patient privacy, cost-cutting methods. All these things are going to happen when the government gets involved in your healthcare, and we know it. And yes, they're just doing a public option right now, but we know that that's just a foot in the door. Any government program, Reagan said once, government programs are the closest thing we have to eternal life in this world right now because they don't end, they just grow and expand. And we know that's their goal. And I've just said, we talked about death penalty, I'm just talking about how the government is getting involved in your privacy, is getting involved in your health. That's what this bill does. It is that foot in the door. And and this is not me saying, it's accredited doctors, and this is only a few. And it's just common sense. We have a system between the patient and the doctor through a capitalism free market competition system which spurs innovation. And it's a liberty. If you don't want health insurance, you don't have to have it. That's the point of liberty. But now in this one, they're forcing you to have it, according to the law. I'm just saying, that's pretty scary stuff. When I'm old, I want to be taken care of. I'm sorry. If I've lived long, if I've contributed to society for a while, if I've done my work, when I'm old, I deserve to be taken care of a little bit. And if I have the money, if I saved up and I have money in retirement, I have the money to pay for it, then I'm not going to let some government program, agency, bureaucracy step in my way. No, that's not how America is supposed to work. But that's how they want it to work. And you know what's scariest of all? This is the scariest thing you'll see in Halloween. That health bill that they were trying to pass, it's 1,900 pages. Almost, I can't remember the exact, it was like 1,894. Almost 2,000 pages. How long is our Constitution? 35 pages? Or not even? I don't even know, but 1,900 pages. That that in itself should scare the living daylights. I told you, this is going to be a scary Halloween show. You were listening Michael Yaffee program, wnsc.ucf.edu online radio.